False accusations from family and golden brother got me kicked from university. After his death and my wealth, they want me back. Be me 28 years old now. Was 21 when everything went down. Need to tell this story because recent events brought everything back. Buckle up, it's a wild ride. Growing up, it was always me and my younger brother Daniel. Family looked normal from outside. Upper middle class. Nice house in quiet suburbs of San Diego. Regular family dinners and all that typical stuff. But the family dynamics were completely messed up. Daniel was always the golden child. And when I say always, I mean always. Not trying to brag, but I was an excellent student. 4.0 GPA throughout school. Started a mentoring program for underprivileged kids at local youth center. Led the mock trial team to state finals. Did everything right by the book. Meanwhile, my brother barely maintained 3.3 GPA. Spent most time organizing house parties, playing latest Xbox games. But somehow in my parents' eyes, he was just a misunderstood genius who learned differently. Their words, not mine. Quick example of how bad it was. Got straight A's one semester in high school. Mom just nodded and said, "That's expected of you." Same week, Daniel gets B- in English. Parents took him to Morton's Steakhouse to celebrate his improvement. Not even making this up. Fast forward to college applications. Applied to UC Berkeley. Was my dream school since childhood. Had perfect grades. Solid extracurriculars. Studied like crazy for SATs. Got 1540 after months of preparation. Daniel suddenly decided he wanted to go there too. Only because our dad went there. Had this whole thing about continuing the legacy. This is where everything started going downhill. Got my acceptance letter first. Remember that day perfectly. Was in kitchen eating leftover Chinese food. Email notification popped up on my phone. Started literally shaking when reading it. Called my best friend Thomas right away. Knew my family wouldn't care much. Told them during dinner. They just went, "Oh, that's nice." Immediately started talking about how Daniel would surely get in too. Such a typical response from them. Speaking of Daniel's application, this still makes my blood boil. Barely studied for SATs. Got 1290. His essay was complete BS. Wrote about how organizing house parties taught him leadership skills. Like seriously, what even is that? Actually tried helping him study. Stayed up late explaining calculus problems. Helped with practice tests. Everything I could. But he'd always quit after 20 minutes. Would say stuff like, "Not everyone needs to be a try-hard nerd like you." Then go back to playing Elden Ring. Then came rejection letter day. Holy shit, what a show that was. He came home from checking mail. Literally threw himself on kitchen floor crying. He was 23 BTW, not 12. Mom and dad came running like he was having cardiac arrest. Meanwhile, my Berkeley acceptance letter, still on fridge, buried under takeout menus, and Daniel's old lacrosse team photo. Next few weeks were absolute hell. Brother locked himself in room. Only came out to make dramatic sighs. Give me dirty looks. Parents started acting weird. Making comments like, "Some people get all the luck, and life isn't fair to everyone." Meanwhile, I worked my ass off for years. While he coasted by on charm and bullshit, but somehow I was the lucky one. The real kicker came later. Daniel had been telling everyone, extended family, his friends, random people at grocery store, that Berkeley was his destiny because of dad. Even had Berkeley sticker on his car already. So embarrassing. When rejection hit, instead of admitting maybe he should have worked harder, started spreading stories about me. Said I must have done something shady to get in. First just told people I probably cheated on SATs or knew someone in admissions. But it got way worse. Looking back now, can see this was just start of his plan to screw me over. Didn't know it then, but rejection broke something in his brain. Couldn't handle that his destiny didn't work out. Instead of dealing with it like normal person, decided if he couldn't go to Berkeley, neither could I. So picking up where I left off, finally got to Berkeley. First few months were actually amazing. For first time in life felt like could just be myself. No brother's shadow constantly over me. Got super lucky with roommate situation. Ended up with this dude Oliver from Sacramento. He was into bioengineering. Actually enjoyed studying like me. Finally someone who didn't make me feel like a weirdo for liking academics. Our dorm room was in this older building. Nothing fancy but had huge windows. Right next to dining commons. Perfect location, really. Oliver and I set up desks facing each other. Did these late-night study sessions, fueled by Monster Energy and those cheap Target cookies, had this whole system worked out? Daughter usually open when we were studying. Lots of study groups came through, but had strict rule about closing it after 11 p.m. So we could actually get some sleep. Life was actually going great. Maintaining 3.9 GPA. Quantum mechanics messed up my 4.0, but whatever. Joined robotics club. Working on this breakthrough biochemistry project. Was catching attention from big pharma companies. This Merck recruiter kept hanging around our department. Professor hinted I might get summer internship. Everything finally falling into place. Then weird stuff started happening. Notice people in dining hall looking at me, whispering. Some would move to different table when I sat down. Thought maybe had bad cologne or something lol. Then this guy from calculus class, never even talked to him before, comes up after class, asks if I could hook him up. Me, confused AF. Hook you up with what, the homework? He just gives this weird look and walks away. About a week later, our RA Theodore pulls me aside after hall meeting, trying to be casual. Says there were some concerns about my activities. Had no clue what he meant, until he straight up asks if I'm selling Adderall to other students. Actually laughed because thought he was joking. Don't even take aspirin for headaches, let alone deal drugs. That's when he showed me screenshots. Someone had been deeming random Berkeley students on Instagram, pretending to be me, offering to sell them study drugs. Messages were written in this weird way. Kind of sounded like me. Used some specific phrases I use, but definitely weren't from me. There were even fake conversations, where I supposedly confessed to stealing my brother's research project. To get accepted to Berkeley, knew immediately it was Daniel. Found out later from his ex, he'd been stalking my social media, studying how I wrote, making these elaborate fake conversations. The research project thing was especially rich, considering this dude once asked if Linux was named after Linus from Peanuts. But it got worse. Way worse. Oliver and I had this routine. Hit the 24-hour library together to study. But this one night during midterms week, got the worst migraine of my life. Seeing spots. About to throw up. The whole deal. Oliver practically ordered me to stay in bed. Said he'd share his notes later. Good guy Oliver. Next morning, dragged myself to 8 a.m. class. Because I'm an idiot who scheduled 8 a.m. class. Campus police officers waiting at my door. Turns out someone anonymously reported me. Said I was dealing drugs from my dorm room. They searched the place. Found shoebox full of weed and unlabeled pills. Under my bed, right where I kept my spare textbooks. Here's the thing. Only 3 people knew about that spot. Me, Oliver, and Daniel. Daniel helped me move in. Complained whole time about how my dorm was nicer than his room at community college. Specifically, remember showing him where I stored extra books. He made some joke about hiding snacks from mom there. When she visited, was freaking out, trying to explain drugs weren't mine. Then 3 students came forward, said they'd bought Adderall from me. Found out later, Daniel paid them with his savings from his Subway job. Imagine being so petty, spend your whole summer sandwich making money, just to screw over your brother. Really messed up part? Parents were already planning to drive up to campus. Showed up right as I was trying to explain everything to officers. Instead of defending me, or asking questions, or anything normal parents would do, Dad just stood there, texting someone. Had this weird little smile on his face. Later saw phone bill. He'd been texting Daniel whole time. Looking back now, can see how perfectly orchestrated it all was. Daniel knew exactly when I'd be vulnerable. During midterms, knew about Spot in my room. Had spent months building up fake drug dealer narrative. Even timed it so parents would witness my humiliation. Next few weeks were complete blur. Meetings with Dean, disciplinary board, campus police. Oliver tried defending me. Told them how I was most straight-edge person he knew. Wouldn't even drink energy drinks, because was weird about putting substances in body. My professors wrote letters about my character. Didn't matter. They had evidence. They had witnesses. That was that. This is where everything really went to complete shit. Still makes my blood boil. Even years later, university investigation was complete joke. Found drugs in my room. Still 100% sure Daniel planted them. Had these 3 random students claiming I sold them Adderall. Found out way later, Daniel paid them $500 each from his Subway savings. Plus all these screenshots of me messaging people about drugs on Instagram. Tried everything to prove my innocence. Literally offered to take drug test on spot. Showed them my bank accounts. Prove I hadn't been getting any mysterious payments. Even had my high school teachers write letters about how I was this straight-edge kid who once reported someone for having cigarettes. Not my proudest moment, but you get the point. Disciplinary hearing was on Tuesday morning. Remember, because was supposed to present my biochemistry project to Merck recruiter on Wednesday. Had been working on it for months. Hearing was in this stuffy room in admin building. Felt like was on trial for murder. Board was 6 people, sitting at this long table, looking at me like I was El Chapo Jr. Parents were there. Somehow made it worse. Mom kept doing this fake crying thing. No actual tears. Just weird sniffling noises. Dad spent whole time texting. Later found out from phone bill. He was giving Daniel live updates. Like, who does that to their own kid? Worst part was when they brought in witnesses. These 3 guys I barely knew from my dorm building. Claimed I'd been selling them Adderall since first week of school. Had this whole story. How I'd meet them behind library at specific times. Had special prices for bulk orders. All this detailed BS made me sound like some professional drug dealer. Meanwhile, I'm sitting there thinking about how I literally had to Google what Adderall was When Theodore first accused me, Oliver tried to defend me. Got up there and told them how I was probably most boring roommate ever. Wouldn't even drink Monster Energy during all-nighters. Because was paranoid about artificial sweeteners. Told them about our open door policy. How anyone could have accessed our room. He even mentioned how my grades were perfect. And I was in line for that Merck internship. So why would I risk everything to sell drugs? But none of it mattered. They had their evidence. Their minds were made up. Dean had most punchable face I've ever seen. Read out this long statement about how Berkeley has zero tolerance policy for drug distribution, how they had to maintain integrity of institution, or whatever BS that was. Expulsion letter was 3 pages long. Only remember first line. Effective immediately your enrollment at University of California, Berkeley is terminated. Just like that, everything I'd worked for my entire life was gone. Gave me 48 hours to clear out my dorm room. Packing up my stuff was surreal. 1 minute, I'm promising bioengineering student with potential Merck internship. Next, I'm shoving all my dreams into cardboard boxes. While people whisper in hallway, some even took Snapchat videos of me carrying boxes to my car. Real classy. Parents showed up to help. Mostly just stood around making everything worse. Mom kept saying stuff like, "I just don't know where we went wrong with you." Dad was still texting Daniel. At one point, he actually smiled at his phone. Guess my brother sent something particularly funny. About my life being ruined. Final punch to gut. University wouldn't release my transcripts because had disciplinary actions pending. So not only was I kicked out, couldn't even transfer somewhere else. Oh, and they still expected me to pay. Full semester's tuition. Cool, cool, cool. Oliver was only real friend I had left. Helped me pack until 3 a.m. Then we just sat on my stripped bed, eating vending machine Doritos, trying to figure out what the hell I was going to do next. His parents called. These super chill neurosurgeons could tell something wasn't adding up about whole situation. Offered to let me crash at their place in Boston until I figured things out. But worst part was my grandparents. They'd co-signed my student loans. Parents immediately called them about expulsion. Instead of hearing my side, just assumed I'd turned into some drug kingpin. Grandmother actually said, "I always worried all that science stuff would lead you down dark path. Like, what does bioengineering have to do with drugs?" By Thursday night, was completely out of Berkeley. 7 years of dreaming, studying my ass off, doing everything right, all gone because my brother couldn't handle being rejected. Funny thing is, and by funny I mean absolutely infuriating, he was doing fine at community college. Could have just accepted that's where he belonged. Moved on with his life, but nope. Had to make sure I lost my shot too. This next part's pretty rough to write about. After getting kicked out of Berkeley, basically had nothing. No college, no money, no place to live. Family that thought I was Walter White Jr. or something. Thank God for Oliver and his parents. Let me crash in their guest house in Boston. Wasn't anything fancy, just this converted garage with these weird small windows near ceiling and futon that definitely came from someone's dorm room. But honestly, after everything, felt like 5-star hotel. Oliver's mom would leave breakfast outside my door every morning. Usually just granola and green tea, but still meant a lot. His dad helped me look for jobs online. Finding work was complete nightmare though. Try explaining to employers why you got kicked out of Berkeley without sounding like complete degenerate. Finally landed job at Target. Working 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. shifts stocking shelves. $11.50 an hour. Barely enough to buy gas for my car. This beat-up 2008 Honda Civic. Bought off Craigslist for $2,000. All money I had left from summer job. One job wasn't going to cut it. Picked up afternoon shifts doing Uber Eats deliveries. Then 8 p.m. to 2 a.m. at this sketchy sports bar. Called the Penalty Zone. Owner paid in cash. Didn't ask questions about my background, which was nice. But place was definitely front for something illegal. Like, why does sports bar need 3 safes and back office? My apartment was actually just converted storage room. In this rundown house, shared with 4 other guys. When I say storage room, I mean it literally used to store cleaning supplies. So small had to choose between having twin mattress or desk. Couldn't fit both. Went with mattress. Used laptop sitting on my bed. One of my roommates, Victor, was definitely real drug dealer. Ironic, right? But was actually one of nicest guys there. Would sometimes share his mom's homemade enchiladas. When I was too broke for groceries, worst part wasn't even crappy jobs or tiny room. Was feeling like whole future was just gone. Would scroll through LinkedIn, see my old Berkeley classmates, posting about their internships at Merck and Johnson, while I'm trying to figure out if could afford both ramen and toilet paper that week. Oliver would call to check on me, but eventually started dodging his calls. Hurt too much to hear about how great everything was going at school. Parents tried calling few times too, but only to tell me what disappointment I was. and how Daniel was thriving at community college. Like, wow, good for him for managing to pass basic English while I'm living in literal closet because of his lies. They even had nerve to ask if I was clean yet. Blocked their numbers after that. Only thing kept me sane was studying between shifts. Would go to this 24-hour diner called Sunshine's. That had free Wi-Fi. Would buy their cheapest coffee, $1.50, and just sit there for hours, working on random chemistry experiments. The overnight waitress Barbara was this older lady. Would sometimes accidentally bring me extra fries, or a slice of pie that was going to be thrown out anyway. Never said anything, but think she could tell how broke I was. Sunshine's became like my second home. Was quiet at night. Nobody bothered me. Could pretend I was still real bioengineering student, instead of college dropout working 3 dead-end jobs. Built this chemical compound tracking system for fun, just to keep my skills sharp. Looking back, that project actually ended up changing my life. But I'll get to that in next part. Some nights were really dark though, like sitting in your car crying after 12-hour shift dark. Remember this one time was doing Uber Eats delivery. Delivered to house that looked exactly like my parents' place. Dad who answered door even looked kind of like my dad. Had full breakdown in their driveway. Probably scared shit out of them. Rock bottom was probably around month 4 of this lifestyle. Got sick. Like really sick? With some kind of flu. But couldn't afford to miss work. Ended up passing out during Target shift. Manager actually drove me to urgent care himself. Shout out to Kevin. You were a real one. Doctor said had 103 degrees fever. Was severely dehydrated. Still went to bar shift that night because needed money for rent. Crazy thing is, Daniel was living his best life during all this. Found out through mutual friends, he'd tell people I was away at rehab or working through some issues. Even took over my old room at parents' house. Sold most of my stuff I'd left behind. Used money to buy PlayStation 5. Apparently. Alright, so remember that chemical compound tracking system? Was building at Sunshine's Diner just to keep myself from going crazy? That actually turned out to be my ticket out of rock bottom. But let me back up a bit. Sitting at usual booth at like 1 a.m., running on third cup of $1.50 coffee. When this guy in expensive suit walks in, kind of weird for Sunshine's at that hour. Place usually just truckers and other insomniacs like me. He sits at counter, starts chatting with Barbara, the awesome waitress who kept accidentally giving me free food. I'm half listening while coding. Hear him complaining about how his pharmaceutical research lab's software is complete garbage. They were losing compound data, double booking lab equipment, all kinds of chaos. Barbara, who'd seen me coding there for months, actually speaks up. Goes, you should talk to my friend over there. He's some kind of chemistry genius. I was not a chemistry genius, Lowell. Just a Berkeley dropout with insomnia and free Wi-Fi. But this guy Nathan comes over, asks what I'm working on, show him system I built for fun. Honestly, just to keep track of what chemicals Sunshine's was throwing out. Was trying to help Barbara reduce waste. He gets all excited, asks if I could build something similar for pharmaceuticals. Next thing I know, I'm picking up some freelance work from his company, maintaining their systems. Was only like $20 an hour at first, but that was nearly double what Target paid. Plus could do it between other jobs. Nathan kept finding more stuff for me to do. Fixing their database, building better tracking system for lab experiments. That kind of thing. About 6 months in, I'd automated like half their lab processes. They were saving so much time and money that Nathan offered me full-time position as their chemical systems specialist. Salary wasn't amazing. $45,000 but came with health insurance. An actual desk and actual office. No more storage room bedroom. Here's where it gets interesting. Being around pharmaceutical research all day, started picking up on how everything worked. Would overhear chemists talking about compounds, see how they handled experiments. All that stuff? One day, lab supervisor called in sick. When they were supposed to run important tests, Nathan was freaking out because it was some big shot client's project. I offered to help, since knew the testing protocols from system I'd built. Total fake it till you make it moment. Watched like 5 chemistry tutorial videos on way to lab, but somehow it worked. Clients actually liked that I could explain both technical aspects of chemical analysis and point out potential optimization opportunities. They ended up choosing our lab for their whole research pipeline. Nathan called me into his office next day. Thought I was going to get fired for overstepping. Instead, he offered to sponsor me to get my pharmaceutical research certification. Said my tech and chemistry background gave me unique angle. Could talk to all these biotech companies in their language. Studying for certification was rough. Still working full-time. Plus taking classes at night. But compared to living in storage room and working 3 jobs, piece of cake. Got certification in 4 months. Started as junior researcher. Made exactly 2 breakthroughs first month. Thought I was hot shit, but then something clicked. Realized could combine my tech knowledge with pharmaceutical research. in a way nobody else was doing. Built AI system that tracked drug trial patterns, could predict which compounds were likely to succeed. Based on molecular structure and previous trials, started focusing on helping biotech startups navigate research pipelines. First year as research lead made $88,000. Not bad, but nothing crazy. Year 2, $145,000. Year 3, $285,000. Turns out all those hours crying in car while doing Uber Eats actually taught me something about perseverance. Real breakthrough came when landed huge account, helping pharma company relocate entire research division from New York to Boston. We're talking 50-plus researchers, all high-end equipment. Commission on that deal alone was more than 4 years of old salary combined. Now I'm youngest VP of research. In company's history, did $1.8 million in lab contracts last quarter alone. Bought my own house in nice neighborhood, where neighbors are all doctors and lawyers. Even got German Shepherd named Binary. Yes, I'm still massive nerd. You should hear him bark when I say run test. Crazy part? Actually make more money now than probably would have with Berkeley biochem degree. Sometimes check LinkedIn. See my old classmates stuck in basic lab jobs they hate, while I'm over here working 30-hour weeks and making bank. Oh, and remember Barbara from Sunshines? Still go there for coffee sometimes, but now leave $100 tips. Helped pay for her daughter's wedding dress last year. She still tries to give me free pie though, lol. So here's where story catches up to present day. Still processing all of this. Last Sunday, out in my backyard grilling ribbies, playing fetch with Binary. Still best dog ever. Even if girlfriend says teaching him to respond to chemistry terms is peak nerd behavior, perfect Boston afternoon. Sunny but not too hot. Got some music playing. Just chilling with my dog. Then Binary starts going crazy, barking at front of house. He's usually pretty chill with delivery people and neighbors, so knew something was up. Walk around to check. There's this black Mercedes parked in my driveway. For second think maybe it's client. Get a lot of pharma exec types these days. But then doors open. And yeah, it's my parents. Haven't seen them in 7 years. Mom looks like she aged about 20 years. Dad's got this weird attempt at beard. Makes him look like Bargain bin Walter White. They're just standing there, staring at me like they've seen ghost. First thing out of Mom's mouth, your house is bigger than we expected. Not hello, not we missed you. Not even sorry for believing your brother and ruining your life. Nope, just passive-aggressive commentary about my house. Classic mom. But then notice their faces. Like really notice them. They look broken. Mom's wearing no makeup, which never happens. Dad's hands are shaking. That's when knew something seriously wrong. They tell me Daniel wrapped his car around tree, leaving some club in Miami 3 weeks ago. Died on impact. Apparently he'd been working as social media consultant there, which probably means he was one of those club promoter guys who get paid to bring hot girls to parties. Honestly tracks with his personality. Here's really messed up part. They weren't just there to tell me about Daniel. Came to apologize. Turns out my old roommate Oliver, who's like head researcher at Merck now, ran into Mom at some pharma conference in Chicago last month. He didn't know Daniel had died yet, but basically told them everything. Showed them all evidence he'd saved from back then. Had screenshots of Daniel's fake Instagram accounts, records of money he paid those students to lie, even security camera footage from our dorm, showing someone who looked suspiciously like Daniel going into our room day before drugs were found. Oliver had been collecting this stuff for years, hoping someday it would help clear my name. According to parents, and honestly still not sure I believe this, Daniel had convinced them I was this evil genius who'd stolen his research project to get into Berkeley. Remember how he barely passed high school science? Yeah, apparently he told them. He'd been working on some revolutionary chemistry project in secret, and I'd somehow hacked his computer and stolen it. They claimed they had no idea about drug setup. Said they really thought I was dealing, because Daniel showed them evidence. Probably those same fake screenshots he was sending around campus. Mom started crying, saying they'd spent years thinking they'd failed as parents because their son was drug dealer, only to find out their other son was actually the monster whole time. They're telling me this while Binary just sits there, giving them most judgmental dog look ever, like he knew these were people who screwed me over. Good boy. Didn't know what to feel. Part of me wanted to scream at them about how they should have known better, like they raised me for 18 years. Did they really think they're straight A? Never even drank Monster Energy, son. Suddenly turned into Pablo Escobar? But another part of me just felt empty. They kept talking about how proud they were of what I'd accomplished despite everything. Dad actually tried to take credit, saying adversity they put me through made me stronger. I literally laughed in his face. Told him that's like pushing someone off cliff, then congratulating them for learning to fly on way down. Then they started in with this whole thing about how they've lost one son, don't want to lose another, how they want to be part of my life again, meet my girlfriend. maybe even be grandparents someday. Mom noticed photo of me and girlfriend on wall. Started crying about how she looks like such nice girl. She's chief trauma surgeon BTW. Way out of my league. I just couldn't. Told them they need to leave. They tried to argue, but Binary started growling. Seriously, best dog ever. They finally got hint. As they were leaving, Mom turned back and said, "We really didn't know about drugs. We just believed him because he was our son too." That's what's really messing with my head now. Like, maybe they really were just victims of Daniel's manipulation too. But then remember how they treated me my whole life, way before Berkeley thing. How nothing I did was ever good enough. How they always took his side. Found out later they got my address from Oliver. He ran into them at that conference. They seemed so devastated about Daniel that he felt bad for them. Can't really blame him. Oliver's got good parents. Probably couldn't imagine parents actually trying to ruin their kid's life. Update. It's been about 2 weeks since parents showed up at my door with news about Daniel. Everything's gotten even more complicated. They came back yesterday, just showed up again unannounced. While I was on work call, thank God for Ring cameras, this time they brought whole box of evidence, old photos, Daniel's journal entries, stuff they thought would somehow make everything better. Like showing me pictures of family vacations from 15 years ago would erase fact that they helped destroy my life. I didn't even go downstairs to let them in, just watched them on Ring camera while Binary barked his head off, finally called cops when they wouldn't leave. Watching my dad try to explain to 2 police officers why they were just trying to reconnect with their son was both sad and hilarious. One of cops actually asked if I wanted to press harassment charges, but I just wanted them gone. Here's thing that's really been messing with my head. After they left, I called Oliver to basically yell at him for giving them my address, but he told me something that made me stop mid-rant. When he first ran into my parents at that pharma conference, they genuinely didn't know I wasn't drug dealer, like they were still telling people their son was lost to addiction or whatever, Oliver said when he showed them all evidence he'd saved about Daniel's setup. They looked destroyed, like their whole world was falling apart. Apparently, Mom threw up in conference center bathroom after seeing proof that Daniel had paid those students to lie about buying drugs from me. But here's my problem. Even if they really didn't know about drug setup, which I'm still not 100% sure about, they still 1. Never believed in me my whole life. 2. Always took Daniel's side no matter what. 3. Didn't try to contact me for 7 years. 4. Only care now because their favorite child is dead. My therapist. Yeah, I got one. Turns out getting betrayed by whole family leaves some issues. Says I need to separate 2 things. Forgiving them for believing drug allegations and forgiving them for being shitty parents in general. She might have been thinking about all times they chose Daniel over me, way before Berkeley. When he broke my science fair project in 6th grade, and they said I shouldn't have made him jealous when they spent my college fund. On his 3rd attempt at starting business, it was dropshipping scam BTW. When they skipped my high school graduation because Daniel had hangover and needed them. Every single time they celebrated his C+ grades, while ignoring my straight A's. More I think about it, more I realize Berkeley incident wasn't cause of our problems, just final symptom of their toxic favoritism. Called my grandparents yesterday, first time in years. They apologized for believing drug stuff, said they should have known better, but they also dropped another bomb. Apparently Daniel had been lying to our whole extended family for years, telling them I was sending him threatening messages and trying to sabotage his life. He even showed them fake texts as proof. Guy was playing long game with his manipulation. My girlfriend thinks I should at least hear parents out, says everyone deserves second chance. Easy for her to say though. Her parents paid for med school and actually love her. Oliver agrees with her. But Oliver also believes in humanity because his parents aren't psychos. But you know what really sealed deal for me? Found out they only started looking for me after they found Daniel's journal. He wrote this whole confession about everything he did to me, probably when he was drunk or feeling guilty or whatever. They didn't try to find me because they missed me or because they figured out truth on their own. They only came looking because their dead golden child told them to. So I've made my decision. I'm filing for restraining order tomorrow. Already talked to lawyer about it. 7 years of no contact, followed by showing up repeatedly at my house uninvited. Should be enough for at least temporary order. Know some people will think I'm being harsh, but here's the thing. I've spent years building life without them. Got awesome career, amazing girlfriend, best dog ever. Binary just brought me his test tube while I'm typing this LOL. Solid friends. Why would I want to add toxic people back into that mix? Just because they finally realized they backed wrong son? Yeah, maybe they really didn't know about drugs. Maybe Daniel manipulated them too. But they were crap parents long before that, and finding out their favorite kid was Liar doesn't automatically make them good parents now. Well, this seems like a good place to end this story. Special shout out to Barbara at Sunshine's Diner for all those expired pies, Victor and his amazing food truck, still best enchiladas in Boston, Oliver for being best friend anyone could ask for, my girlfriend for dealing with my trauma, and my chemistry command trained dog, my therapist who's going to earn her whole year's salary just from tomorrow's session, and Binary, the goodest boy, who knows bad parents when he smells them. For those asking, yes, I'm actually doing great now, making more money than I ever would have. With that Berkeley degree, living my best life, finally free from family drama. And yes, Binary's commands actually work. Current list includes Binary Analyze, sits, Binary Stabilize, stays, Binary Neutralize, growls, Binary Extract, fetches, Binary Catalyze, rolls over. I regret nothing.